Welcome back to the Introduction to Containers and Docker series. In the last video, we got hands-on with running containers, pulling images, starting and stopping them, and connecting to their shells. Now it's time to talk about something that comes up very quickly in the real world: storage. Container storage falls into two categories: persistent and non-persistent. By default, all storage inside a container is non-persistent. That means when a container stops, any files it created or changed are gone. For some use cases, that's completely fine. A container that runs a one-off task and exits doesn't necessarily need to keep anything around. But if your container needs to store data that survives beyond its life cycle, think of databases, configuration files, and log archives, then you will need persistent storage. The way this works is fairly straightforward. We take some external storage, that could be a directory on the Docker host or a dedicated volume, and then we mount it inside the container. From the container's perspective, it looks just like a normal directory. The container doesn't need to know, or even care, that the files are actually being saved somewhere outside of itself. To the container, it's just local storage. There are two main ways to do this in Docker. These are volumes and bind mounts. We'll cover both of these in this video. Let's start with volumes. This is the recommended approach for most situations when you need persistent storage. A volume is a dedicated storage area on the Docker host that Docker itself manages. You don't need to decide where it lives on the file system, how much space to allocate, or how to set permissions. Docker handles all of that for you. We create a new volume with the docker volume create command, followed by a name. And that's really all there is to it. Docker takes care of the rest behind the scenes. Docker volume list lists all of the volumes on this Docker host. Notice the driver column. The driver tells us what type of storage is backing this volume. The local driver means it's stored locally on the Docker host. There are other driver options for things like network storage, but local is what we're going to use here. We can get even more information using the docker volume inspect command. A lot of Docker commands support using inspect. Now let's start a container and give it access to this volume. The key addition here is the volume parameter. The argument is made of two parts, separated by a colon. First is the name of the volume that we just created. Second is the mount point. That's the path inside the container where this volume will appear. In this case, the volume will show up as a directory called /new inside the container. Running ls inside the container shows us the file system, and there's our /new directory. That is the volume, mounted and ready to use. Any files saved there will persist even after the container stops or is removed. The volume we just created is called a named volume, simply because we gave it a name. There's also a second type called an anonymous volume. This one isn't created ahead of time and doesn't have a name. Instead, it's created automatically when the container starts and is intended for temporary storage only. So it is tied to the container's lifecycle. In practice, you'll use named volumes far more often. But let's quickly see how an anonymous volume works. This time, the volume argument has only one part, just a mount point, no volume name. Docker will create an anonymous volume in the background and mount it there automatically. As before, we can see the directory mounted here in the file system. If we look at our volumes now, we can see one here that has no friendly name, just a long ID string. That's the anonymous volume. The reason it's still here is that I didn't start the container with the rm argument, so the container wasn't automatically removed when it was stopped. Anonymous volumes are tied to the life cycle of the container. So that means they get cleaned up along with the container. So I'll need to clean this up manually. To do that, I remove the stop container with docker rm. Once the container is gone, we can then remove the volume using docker volume rm, followed by its ID. The second way to add persistent storage is with a bind mount. Where a volume is a storage area that Docker manages for you, a bind mount approaches storage a bit differently. Here, you choose a specific file or directory that already exists on the Docker host, and you map that directly into the container. Both the container and the Docker host can access this location at the same time. That makes bind mounts especially useful for two things: passing configuration files into a container, and getting files back out, such as backups or logs. Even though this is a bind mount rather than a volume, we still use the volume parameter. It can do double duty for both types. The argument is the same two-part format separated by a colon. The first part is the file or directory on the Docker host. I'm running Docker Desktop on Windows here, so that's a Windows-style path. If you're on Linux or Mac, you'd use a Unix-style path instead. The second part, as before, is where this is mounted inside the container. Running ls confirms the directory we mounted is inside the container, just as we'd expect. Let's create a file inside the mounted directory using the Linux touch command. Then we'll exit and remove the container entirely. Now, if we browse to the temp directory on the local host, that is the directory that we mounted into the container, we can see that the file we created is sitting right there. The container is gone, but the file remains. That's persistent storage, particularly a bind mount, working exactly as it should. So that's a solid overview of storage in Docker. In the next video, we'll move on to container networking, how containers communicate with each other and the outside world. If you're finding this series useful, my full course goes much deeper, covering advanced storage, drivers, network types, security, and a full home lab build from scratch. The link is in the description. I hope to see you in the next one.